Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host, Barb Gulin, and hanging out with me today in the studio is Tony Shore, my buddy and pal. How you doing?
I am doing great, Barbara. Good to see you today. Great to be
Yes.
here with you. We have our new video
Isn't
format.
it fun?
It is fun. I like it. I like it. It's just a great addition to our viewers who like to watch the show on YouTube and to our listeners out there. You're in luck too because I do have the perfect face for radio, as they say. So our listeners might be actually having the
Tony.
better situation today. But no, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google
We are
Podcasts.
everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Everywhere.
So we're everywhere. Well, Barbara, what do you have for us for the show today? Anchor Your Retirement.
Today, we're talking about next year. We're talking about 2024, and every year in September, the IRS takes a look at inflation and they evaluate how much we can put into our respective retirement accounts. Your 401k, 403b, IRA, even for those of you who are in governments like state and local government service, your 457 plans, as well as health savings accounts, self-employment IRAs, simple IRAs. It's just a whole bunch of alphabet soup for ways to save for retirement.
Sure.
But they go in every year and take a look at inflation and adjust how much we can contribute into each of those accounts every year for that inflation amount. And guess what? We're going to be able to put away more money for retirement next year.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, in 2022, we had a pretty significant jump because of how high inflation had been.
Sure.
This year, we're going to have increases. They're going to be smaller than they were last year, but any kind of increase is a good increase when it comes to socking away money for retirement.
So today we're talking about contribution limits and what that means, right? For
Hmm.
myself, my wife and I, and our listeners out there, the what we put into our 401ks, what we put into
Hmm.
our IRAs, and those
Hmm.
retirement accounts, they have limits, but now they're raising them so you can put in more per year. That's what
Yep.
you're saying.
Next year, you'll be able to put away a little bit more. Like for 401ks this year, if you were under 50 years old,
Okay.
you could put away 22,500. But next year, that's going to increase to a maximum of 23,000. So we're not
Okay.
talking about a huge jump, but we are talking about a jump.
Yeah, and every bit count. Why does this matter so much? It's because of compounding interest, right? The more you put in
Einstein's
there,
eighth wonder of the world.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
compounding interest. I love it.
Yes. And, last year they made adjustments to the catch up provision as well. This year they did not make any changes to the catch up amount.
Sure.
So, if you're 50 or older next year, you can put away up to 30,500, adding the two numbers together.
So they've added 500 to
They
the.
added 500
Okay.
on the 401k side of things.
Okay. And some people
Okay.
might think, wow, contributing $30,000 plus a year into a retirement account, why should I care? I can't. That sounds like too much to be putting away each year out of my paycheck. But the more you put away, that's if you're 50 or older, and hopefully
Mhm.
you're earning enough and you can
Mhm.
get your spending to a situation where you can put away as at least as much as possible. And it's good to know if you do have money to put away, that you can put away as much as it'd be nice if there were no cap and you could put in whatever you want, right?
In a perfect world,
Yeah.
yes. But here's the thing to remember, and we're gonna segue a little bit here, and then we'll come back to the retirement plans. Something like 40 to 45% of people working in the United States have a side hustle of some
Yep.
sort. They're door
I
dashing,
do.
they're driving for Uber. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who have more than one income stream.
Right.
And what a lot of people might not realize is that I understand you've probably got that side gig because you need to make the money. But you can also, if you go through the steps to form, it's easier if you form a legal entity for yourself form an LLC, form some sort of S corp, do something like that for your side hustle money. You can then create a separate retirement plan for that side hustle money.
Ah, sure. And put it all
And
away for later and let it earn all that interest.
or put some of it away. You're not limited by just your 401k.
Yeah. There you go.
Especially for people who feel like they're behind on the savings curve, or people who had to dip into their retirement savings, especially during COVID, if they lost their jobs and needed to pull some of that money out just to help make ends meet and stuff. If you want to try to make up for some lost time, it's definitely something to consider, and is something that we in our office can help you with. So that you've got it set up the right way, and the IRS doesn't come back and start to question whether or not you actually qualify for that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Now, what accounts we've mentioned 401k.
Mhm.
Name the accounts that have limits to retirement accounts that have limits. 401k. What else?
401k, 403b, which
Okay,
is the nonprofit sector.
sure.
This also applies to thrift savings plan, TSP, if you're a
Okay,
government employee.
okay,
And the same limits apply to 457 plans, and that's for like municipal government
right.
employees and people
Yep.
like that.
And then IRAs, traditional IRAs, correct?
Traditional IRAs, we saw a small bump there last year. This year, 2023, you could put away 6,500 if you're
Okay,
under age 50. Next year, you can put away 7,000 if you're under 50, and then add an extra $1,000 to that if you turn 50 next year or you're older than that.
interesting. So the contribution limits to an IRA are much less than a 401k. I didn't realize there was that much disparity between the two.
They are. They
Hmm,
are.
interesting.
And, it's the same limits for a Roth IRA as well. But
Oh, it
remember
is?
that for a Roth IRA with the lower limits, you also have income restrictions on whether or not you're eligible to participate in a Roth IRA.
That's the difference there, isn't it? So if you're
However, yeah, if your employer offers a Roth retirement plan option, the Roth 401k or Roth 403b, that does not have the same income limit as a Roth IRA does.
good to
So
know.
that's something that a lot of people don't realize and don't take advantage of, even though they could be.
Wow, okay, that's good to know. And, what do you happen to know the income, like, where it begins? Where do they start really limiting you?
It is a phase out, and they change that every year
Yeah.
because of income and changes in income and inflation and all of those good things.
Sure, and
So,
and and it I know it changes all the time. That's why we're having this show today because we're talking about the changes. It's gone up $500. That's good news on the 401k and employer sponsored plan side. And
mhm.
did it also increase on the IRA side then too by 500?
Yes.
Okay, 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 good.
So,
That's good to know.
yeah, now in 2023,
Yep,
the phase out, if you're single,
yep.
starts at $146,000 and phases out completely at $161,000.
Oh,
If you are married filing jointly, it's 218,000 in 2023 on up to 228,000. So they
so if
are
you combined make more than 228,000, you and your spouse, if you're a married couple and you make more than that amount, $228,000 a year, you
you
cannot contribute at all to a Roth IRA, is what you're
correct.
saying.
And if you
And it's
make more than
161 for an individual.
Yeah, and 161 for 2024. For
Yeah.
2023, it's 153,000
Oh,
if you
okay,
make
okay.
more than that.
Oh,
Now
okay.
they start phasing it out and reducing how much you can put in if you're single this year, as low as 138,000
Oh,
and 218,000 if you're
is
married filing
where it
jointly,
starts to decrease.
where
Yeah.
they start to
Yeah.
decrease that amount that you're
Sure.
eligible.
Sure.
whether or not you're eligible for that Roth IRA.
Sure.
But we also have ways to work around that if you've got questions and you know that your adjusted gross income is going to be above those levels, call us at our office, area code 913-553-6222, and we can set up a time for a complimentary no-cost consultation and explain to you some strategies that we have where we can work around if you're in that phase out stage or make more than what those limits are. We still might have ways that we can help make that happen.
Sure. And that makes perfect sense, Barbara. And
Mhm.
I'm glad we're talking about this because it's funny. It's like a lot of topics we cover. You can get deep in the weeds. There are a lot of numbers, and you need to look at your situation and see where you're at. Okay, should I be putting this much here? What are the contribution limits? And you can help them figure all that out and really look at how it affects your overall retirement plan, right?
Right. I'm not an accountant. I don't play one on TV, but I do have access to some CPAs that offer
Sure.
some really, really solid advice. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, well, Barb, I'm self employed. I don't have a 401k. I don't have a 403b, but I want to put away more money than that traditional or Roth IRA will allow me to.
Sure.
Then, we can either look at a SEP IRA, which is a self-employment pension, or a simple IRA. Both of those have different contribution limits depending on how much money you make. The SEP is going to max out at $68,000 in 2024. It maxes out at $66,000 this year,
Hmm.
but that can only be up to a certain percentage of your self-employment income. So it's not like if you're sitting there saying, well, gosh, I'm self-employed, my spouse works, I'm going to make about $66,000 this year. I can put it all away in a SEP. No, you can't.
Hmm.
It's only a certain percentage. And again, if you've got questions about that and you're not working with a CPA or a qualified fiduciary who understands all of this, reach out to us and we will help you with all of that. And then something else to talk about is not on the retirement side, but on the healthcare side. They've
Hmm.
also increased the HSA contribution limits, health
Oh,
savings account
really?
contribution limits. And
That's
for
good.
those who have a flex spending account, they've increased those as well. Flex spending only went up $150
Hmm.
to $3,200 next year. HSAs went up $300 for an individual to $4,150. $650 as a family, where you can put away up to $8,300 a year,
Oh,
tax
wow.
free. Now, what people
That's awesome.
HSA, well, and HSAs are like an IRA on steroids.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
amazing, aren't they? You've said that before.
If you've got an option to have an HSA with your employer, I strongly encourage you to utilize it, because you can put that money into your health savings account. If you need to take money out for qualified medical expenses, you've put it in pre-tax, it comes out tax-free. Okay?
That's huge.
It is.
No taxes ever paid on that
No
money. It
taxes
goes
ever
in
paid on it.
tax-free, it comes out tax-free.
Mhm.
There are really no accounts like that except the HSA, right? I mean, that's
That's the
huge.
only one that really gives you that option. And here's the
Plus, it
thing,
doesn't expire each year, right?
it doesn't expire. It rolls over from year to year.
Wow.
Many employers allow you, once you meet that minimum, that maximum contribution amount for a year, or where you've covered your deductible for your HSA plan. When you've gotten that much into your HSA account, some employers, some plans, not all of them, allow you to invest that excess in, rather than being in a money market or something where it's going to grow very conservatively, you have the option to invest it in other investment vehicles, whether that's a mutual fund or something
Wow.
like that.
I did not know that.
And you can let the money grow. When you are old enough to retire and you're eligible for Medicare, you can actually use your HSA to pay for your Medicare supplement.
Wow. That's
Or
impressive.
if you pay for those medical expenses throughout the years out of pocket rather than taking the money out of your HSA,
Sure.
save the receipts. Once you've retired, or even if you haven't retired, you can go back and reimburse yourself at any time and pull that money out tax free as long as you've got the documentation to say, hey, I had this $10,000 in medical expenses 4 years ago. I didn't take the money out of my HSA, but I'm going to take that out now and I'm going to take it out for free. And I'm going to go take a cruise, because it really doesn't matter what you use the money for at that point, as long as you've got the documentation to prove that you had
Wow.
those qualified medical expenses.
Wow. And people don't realize that, hey, you can keep putting money in year after year that you have an HSA while you're working, and that HSA stays with you even after you leave your job. In retirement, you can use that money to cover, like you said, you can cover
Mhm.
Medicare costs, you can cover healthcare costs, and
Right.
there and people think, well, I'm not going to need that money for healthcare when I'm retired because I'll have Medicare. Well, guess what? Medicare still has premiums and
And
deductibles,
deductibles.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't cover everything.
Yeah. Now let's clarify. You can put money into your HSA as long as you are covered by an HSA qualified health plan.
Right. Well,
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
employed. You can't
While
keep
you're employed.
adding. You can't add after you retire and leave that
Right.
plan,
Just like you can't do an IRA if you don't
but you
have
still
earned
have the
income
money
and your
you put
spouse
in.
does.
If you want to build it up
Right.
before you retire and then use it in retirement, like you said, you can do that.
Right, and it's a small segment of the population, but the population that has figured this out is really making some headway with their retirement savings on it.
Yes, it's huge. Yeah, you've really stressed that to me before, and you're right. It's like an IRA. It's almost like a Roth IRA, but on steroids, because you put the money in tax free, and
Mhm,
it goes in tax free and comes out tax free. That is
mhm.
huge.
I am a huge advocate for health savings
Yeah.
accounts when they're available. In fact, my older daughter, who's 22, even though I still carry her on my health insurance because I can, I told her to enroll in the health insurance at her job and to participate in the HSA,
Yeah.
because there are things on my health plan that wouldn't be covered for her. Like, she's married. If she gets pregnant, dependent maternity coverage isn't usually a
Oh,
thing on
wow.
group health insurance.
Sure.
Okay. And especially since she has some health issues, when she gets pregnant, it's going to be a high risk pregnancy. So we very strategically put her onto the HSA that
Mm.
has 100% co-insurance after the deductible, which means as soon as she pays that deductible, everything for the rest of the year would be covered at 100%.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
huge. Yeah. That's
yeah.
great. Well, this is really
Sure.
important. I mean, it's important to understand how your retirement accounts work and what these contribution limits are and why they're there and how to utilize them properly, and
Mhm.
how to get as much as you can into those accounts. Coming up with a plan for that is key. So if our listeners want to put together that plan or have more questions about this, how do they get a hold of you, Barbara?
They can always reach out to us at our website. We've got two different websites. If you're watching us on YouTube, you see our Safe Harbor FPG website, but you can also reach us at anchoryourretirement.com.
All
That
right.
one's going to take you where you need to go. And our telephone number is area code 913-553-6222. When you call that number, reach out to our scheduling people. Somebody from that team will get you on the calendar and we'll help you figure out what makes the most sense for your retirement.
All right. Well, hey, that Safe Harbor web address, is it Safe Harbor PFG or
No, it's
FPG?
FPG. Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
It's FPG. No worries. No worries. We're going to get that taken care of. For our viewers out there, they will see FPG. I'm just going to have that fixed before we air this. So
No big
there
deal.
was
Oh
a
my
typo
gosh.
there. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll blame
More
Mitch for that.
embarrassingly is I read it out loud before we started recording
That's
and
what I
still
thought.
didn't catch it. Yeah, we
That's what I
did.
thought. Because I said, now, are you sure before we start? You remember that? I want to go on record.
I totally do. I totally do. I am.
That's funny. Don't worry.
If
That'll
I
be
were a
fixed.
dog, I would be wearing the cone of shame at this
Our
moment.
listeners and viewers have no idea what we're talking about because they won't see it. It'll be fixed by the time this airs. But great show today, Barbara. We should wrap it up. Again,
Funny. Yes,
the
please.
phone number is 913 553.
553
Yep,
6222.
Yep, 6222. 913-553-6222. And
Yep.
the web address is safeharborfpg.com. So,
Yep.
Barbara, great show today, an important topic. I encourage our listeners to get a hold of you. But that does it for today's episode of Anchor Your Retirement.
We'll see you soon.
Yep.
Bye.